Hello and welcome to Default Assault, where we take on everything by default. I'm your host, Demosthenes, and with me today is our special guest star, TJ. How's it going?
Always good to be in the place, brother. How we doing tonight?
Fantastic. Glad to have you here. And Kyle, how's it going?
Listen, man, it's only better. Listen, the only way it could get better is if you're an overrated team that's in Wisconsin and you're undefeated. Boom.
Had to get that drop in. Well, we're kicking off the month of December with a string of holiday-inspired videos. And the first thought that came to my mind, especially because we tend to use this image every single time we do spoilers, which Kyle graciously provides his talent for, we're going to be talking about Mickey's Christmas Carol. Or as I'd like to call it, DuckTales Episode 1, The Phantom Christmas. 1983's eminent Mickey Mouse returned, his first short in exactly 30 years. And by God, it has a lot of nostalgic feeling for me. And we'll be discussing as well if it's indeed possibly the best version of A Christmas Carol. But before we dive into that, Kyle, what was your first introduction to Mickey's Christmas Carol?
Listen, this I can tell you is I was stupid young to where I was still probably wearing Voltron or Transformer pajamas at the time, okay? I'm talking about those 80s glow-in-the-dark things. Like, they would have a graphic somewhere on there, and, like, you know, I'd be watching that with, you know, rocking that green thunderous, you know, glow-in-the-dark action. To be honest, I think this was actually my first exposure to a character with a Scottish accent, you know, and that in itself is what comes to mind. Listen, you mentioned Scrooge McDuck, or in the tale, of course, being Ebenezer Scrooge, but that introduction of that character and it carrying on, that's something amazing. And listen, DuckTales is something we've talked about on this show as being amazing. And oh, by the way, happens to be a pretty amazing Christmas production. I'll leave it at that.
Thinking back, you know, to my childhood, I'm thinking, okay, so I was put in front of the TV a lot, and this is the first movie that I can remember watching, you know, as a kid. Like, I mean, I know that I've seen, you know, a lot of stuff, but this is the one that comes to mind as being one of the first ones. And you're right, you know, thinking about DuckTales, just how, you know, and now obviously, you know, seeing that they brought DuckTales back and just being reminded of, you know, what Scrooge McDuck's character meant, you know, and just, I'm smiling for this episode, man. I mean, I feel like a kid again.
What struck me about this film is how straightforward it is in its storytelling. There's little of the overt slapstick nature that you might expect from some of the other Disney cartoons. This it tells its story very, very quickly. It's a very taut film, and even stranger still, it does not back away from hitting some of those dark moments. That one shot of Mickey crying over his son's grave is, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like up there with Schindler's List, but it's a pretty dramatic moment.
Hey, on top of that, when he's on his way down, you know, shortly after that same scene, and, you know, Pete's doing his thing that he tends to do in Disney cartoons in general, and there's fire and burning and, I'll change, you know, all that other stuff, and he's falling into a flaming friggin' coffin. Yeah, that's pretty damn dark.
But I think they kind of had to do it. I mean, this tale wouldn't be effective if it didn't hit those dark moments. They couldn't make it cutie or cuddly. In 1974, about 9 years before this production came out, Alan Young, the voice of Scrooge, actually partnered with Disney to actually release an album, an adaptation of the Dickens tale by the Walt Disney Players. And it was basically this story with Scrooge, etc., Mickey as Bob Cratchit. And it was musical. It was about 35 minutes long, 10 minutes longer than this. Very similar. A few changes, though. Some of the ghosts were different. Pete wasn't the ghost of Christmas Future. It was the hag, the witch from Snow White, which is, you have to say, is a bit darker than Pete. And I think, Kyle, you'll appreciate this because the ghost of Christmas Past was the Sword in the Stones, Merlin.
Look at this.
That's fresh.
instead of Jiminy Cricket.
I gotta tell you, that wildly disappoints me because you don't F with Jiminy, dude. If anybody in that lineup needs to be subbed out, it's going to be Willie the Giant. And the only reason why I think they're put in there is they're more relevant to stuff that happened in that time. Like you'll notice in certain places, there's very particular movies and very particular shorts that are referenced. Like even Willie the Giant happens to make the pistachio or tersmashio or jishmurshmishmur, the same joke that he does in Mickey and the Beanstalk.
Fun and fancy free, yeah.
Yeah, if I didn't just happen to notice that when I was watching with my daughter tonight, I'd have no idea that's what they were referencing. It was still funny on its own. Don't get it twisted. It's kind of like what the Avengers do nowadays is they make it good for general audiences, but catch it if you're a big enough nerd, which, no, I am not a Disney nerd. You shut your butt, Demos. But what I'm saying is if you're going to replace anybody, Willie the Giant is somebody who's going to go because Jiminy Cricket, I don't care, he is the Ghost of Christmas Past because he has a damn medal inside his jacket. I said it.
Which is really funny that you should mention how they reference other Disney shorts and so forth, because they have not just shorts, but other movies. They have cameos from characters from the Aristocats, of course, Ichabod and Mr. Toad. And what's always been a conundrum among Disney fans is that they throw in so many off characters you rarely see outside of their own movies or shorts, but they don't include Pluto. Pluto is MIA, and I think the only logical explanation was he was still busy being a planet back then.
As funny as that is, I think it's very legitimate because to maintain the sadness and the darkness that is the Cratchit moments that you see, Pluto can't be all up in there licking and smiling and barking happy.
Basically, they took this book that I was required. It's funny. I was required to read while I was in school, and they put it all in 25 minutes of awesomeness. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, as far as the touchingness for the millennials, because I like talking to you you younger cats. It hits like the first sequence of Up. It really did a good job of tugging at your heartstrings. It really told the story. It didn't take anything away, which I can't say for the Muppets version of A Christmas Carol. I mean, I felt like when the Muppets did it, they were a lot more, hey, this is a kids thing. We need to do this and tailor it to our children. Whereas, the Disney version, while it was still a cartoon, it still stuck to the story. So you didn't feel like you were cheated if you were watching the movie as an adult with your kids. You didn't feel like you were cheated in watching it. So I give them credit for that.
That's true. It was a much more mature take, but it still has some really funny moments. I think that I appreciate a lot more as an adult. I think it honestly has one of the best breakup scenes I've ever seen in a film.
Your last payment on the cottage was an hour late. I'm foreclosing the mortgage.
Cold-blooded. Like, you don't see that shit on Empire. Tell me I'm wrong.
But, it's kind of funny because Siskel and Ebert, kind of infamously at the time, both gave it thumbs down. 2 thumbs down because they thought it was too straightforward. It didn't have the extra Disney whimsy. And I honestly think that with this tale, I think they hit the balance pretty well.
Wait a minute. Okay, so Goofy was Marley, and you have young Fred as Donald, meaning he's talking like that. I can't do a Donald voice.
No, please don't.
And doing the damn pistachio gig with Willie the Giant, and you're gonna I just can't. Listen, Siskel, I like Siskel. I'm disappointed by him. I've come to expect this from Ebert in my life, that he just says some things. He's respected, and I get it, and he's been there for a long time and all that other stuff. Fine. Never dug him. Siskel, posthumously, I'm disappointed in you. Carry on.
Well, between the two of them, they gave Home Alone 3 and Baby's Day Out a thumbs up and Mickey's Christmas Carol a thumbs down. So I don't know how I can...
Most need to move on.
Home Alone 3.
I think I just killed TJ.
I'll die just a little bit.
Seriously, Home Alone 3. That's hilarious.
I think it was about the same time. They both trashed on Jungle to Jungle, which isn't a great film, mind you, but I think it's freaking The Godfather Part 2 compared to Home Alone 3.
Oh, but if I can say anything, and this isn't necessarily a defense of Siskel and Ebert. I mean, they're slow to the table sometimes. So yeah, they would hate on it then because it didn't it didn't go along with this, what Disney was doing. I mean, it wasn't Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs where it was all lovey-dovey and animals are, floating around and all that stuff. I mean, it was something different.
I mean, since you mentioned Snow White, TJ, I will have to say a little something there. It's not like they sent some guy that's a hunter to kill the chick. Oh, wait, that happened. It's not like they had her in a glass case coffin for oh, wait, damn it, they did that too.
Well, Snow White went to some really freaking dark places, though. There's a reason why her ride at Disney World was, scarier than the freaking Haunted Mansion.
Yo, that reveal on the evil queen who then flips into like that witch being, that's legit. There's a reason why they picked that the latter version as the would-be Ghost of Christmas Future. I'm just saying. Like, listen, Pete's is scary enough, but all I got to do is remix that sound and make it into ho ho, and he's Santa. You can't do anything to get away from that witch laugh, dude. I'm just saying.
Actually, you know what's slightly more terrifying is, and you guys, if you're unaware of this, go back, watch the Blu-ray, go to the graveyard scene where the weasels are digging up the graves and so forth. Take a look at what's written on some of those gravestones. You'll find that Tiny Tim was buried in the same cemetery as Gladys Knight and Warren Oates.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that one, bro.
I don't know what to make of that. I got nothing.
You can't really talk about A Christmas Carol without really comparing it to the other film versions. I mean, out of every single Christmas concept, this is the one that's been kind of done to death. No pun intended. Hell, the more appropriate title for this would have been The Nightmare Before Christmas. But, you have, the famous Alistair Sim version. You have Bill Murray and Scrooge. One of my favorites, underrated, Blackadder's Christmas Carol, which is a hilarious twist on the tale. What do you guys think? Do you think in comparison to the other Christmas Carol versions that this is the best or one of the better ones? What do you guys think?
First off, we're going to say that it's the shortest. But if we're going to compare it, for value, I'm going to have to say it's in my top two. I like Disney, and then I like Scrooge. Those two, for me, it's like a 1A, 1B thing. It really depends on what mood I'm in. If I'm, feeling wholesome, then I'm going to Disney it up. But if I feel like, laughing and being a little raunchy with it, then I'm going to throw some Scrooge in there. I'm going to feel real sexy.
First of all, I got to be clear. I have to kind of take Scrooged out of that conversation because it's just not damn fair. Like, the talent that's normally in these movies for the representation of A Christmas Carol, the only thing that comes close to being as iconic as Bill Murray is, in fact, Sir Patrick Stewart. And frankly, I haven't seen that one yet, so I'm at a bit of disadvantage. He did that for the USA Network. I mean, that in itself was a whole novelty thing, and it hit it out of the park. I think because of that, they ended up doing like, what was it, Moby Dick with him as Captain Ahab, which is ironic because then of all the references that are in Star Trek First Contact and all that, but I digress.
It's funny because Stewart had done it as a one-man play for a long time, and then they adapted it into the TV movie.
What?
Nice. Hold
on. Now that you just caused that car accident, can I just say quickly, that is some shit I would like to see on the quick.
I hope there's a recorded version. You'll have to look that one up.
Does he come out with a crutch and be Tiny Tim too?
If anybody can do it, I mean, I'd feel bad for Tiny Tim going bald that early, but nevertheless.
Hey, Disease is merciless, bro. I'm just trying to tell you. I mean, shit. That'd be perfect. Gosh, man, we're all over the place in this episode, and it's beautiful. But look, I have to be clear. First of all, this is not often a good sign when you say about a particular production that, damn, that was efficient. But I mean it in a good way when I say to Mickey's Christmas Carol, damn, that was efficient. How in the flying hell did you make that 25 minutes incredible? That's insane. Now, the only major thing that they took out that I really feel like I kind of miss is Scrooge's nephew's speech, Fred. You know, I forget but it ends saying, and I say, God bless it. That's a fine speech, and it's one I used to have memorized because I liked it that much. The only thing that keeps it from being the top is there are certain essential scenes that need to be a bit more drawn out to be perfect, to really ring that bell. And it's not here to say that Mickey's Christmas Carol doesn't do it, but the line has to be drawn somewhere because, look, we ain't trying to make the parents pay any, therapy bills and stuff for what it does to the chitlins. Okay, let's be clear. That all being said, I'm with TJ. It's in the top few. I'm not going to be bold enough to say top two, but and granted, I have also not seen Patrick Stewart, but there are a few that are the staples that when you see them on cable, you know that this is what society is trying to tell you is the quintessential Christmas Carol experience, right? There's one that's black and white. You'll know it better than I do, Demos. That one's pretty good.
Are you referring to the Alistair Sim version? It's probably the most famous of the black and white versions.
And it's pretty damn solid. I got to give it its credit. And keep in mind, I'm not even bringing up what they tried to do with Jim Carrey in the animated version there. That was...
Are you the dead-eyed motion capture where the freaking ghosts seem more alive than the people?
Well, thank you for making the point. The punchline is, listen, man, when you are an animated production and you get your ass whooped by a 25-minute presentation of a Scottish duck and Mickey is Cratchit, you done known you f***ed up. I'm just saying.
I think you bring up a good point about Fred's speech. I wonder if they thought that it would be ridiculous coming from Donald's voice, or maybe it was a time thing, or maybe it was because Clarence Nash, who had been doing Donald's voice since 1934, this was the last time that he actually did the voice for Donald. So from 1934 until 1983, I'm talking 50 freaking years of doing that voice. I wonder if it was difficult. Part of me would have loved it if this was a feature-length film, but it's so, I think, Kyle, you nailed it with that word. It's so efficient that I don't think that if it ran any longer, I think it would have probably felt like more padded.
Agreed.
Than anything else.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, I'm glad that they jettisoned the songs from the album. I think that the one song that they have in the film, Oh, What a Merry Christmas Day, is far and away better, and honestly is one of my favorite Christmas songs. I honestly cannot believe that this isn't played more often. It's a beautiful song.
Listen, it beats the hell out of I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas.
Christ. I don't know if it's the best. I think the Alistair Sim version is probably the best version. There is the black and white nature gives it an extra element of horror that I think is very, very effective. But Mickey's Christmas Carol is probably my favorite version. It's the one I will probably I find myself going back and watching the most. It's certainly the most enjoyable, and I cannot think of better casting for Ebenezer Scrooge than Scrooge McDuck. Sorry, Patrick, but that's Scrooge McDuck was born to play Ebenezer Scrooge.
Listen, I'll be up front. This is a guy who has no problem with being on the other end and being the heel. Have you seen the Strongbow commercials? This is a guy that actually took money to be the poop emoji. Okay, he'll be fine.
That was the one single creative idea with that movie, and it was pretty shitty. So with that being said, do you guys consider Mickey's Christmas Carol required viewing?
Yeah. I have to say that it is. I mean, we're talking about a 25-minute explosion of efficiency based on what Kyle said. And, you know, when we sit back and think about it, I'm saying, okay, so what criteria am I judging this on? A Christmas Carol. Someone says A Christmas Carol. What do I think about first? And I actually think about Mickey's A Christmas Carol even before I think about Scrooge, to be completely honest with you. For what it is, I mean, if there's something that you're talking about, okay, well, it's Christmas season. I'm gonna watch a couple of things. I'm probably gonna watch Rudolph. I'm gonna look at some Heat Miser. But I have to watch. I gotta watch Mickey's Christmas Carol, man. It's one of those things. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's required reading.
I think it should be. I think it should be more remembered than any of these claymation things like Rudolph, or any of that, or even the Frosty the Snowman cartoon, or even Charlie Brown Christmas, any of that.
Slow down now, son.
Listen, you don't make me pull up Colonel Nathan R. Jessup and go.
I'm just saying, son. Charlie Brown Christmas, man. Just take a deep breath, man. Take a deep breath.
Listen,
sacrilege.
Listen, you would rather see that in a conference championship than Wisconsin and Ohio State. I'm just saying. You can't tell me I'm wrong now, can you? You would love to see that football game if it was the Charlie Brown Christmas team versus the Mickey's Christmas Carol team. Tell me you wouldn't watch. To your point, TJ, the fact that we can even have that conversation about something that's kid targeted is still that relevant for kids. And then, oh, by the way, is amazing for adults too. Guess what? You just cornered me into saying it's required reading. It's your fault, TJ. Suck it.
I'll accept that.
Well, based on that, all right. There are so many bad Christmas specials out there, and they continue to get made. I have said before that Christmas is a Christmas film in general is in itself a genre, and I mean between what was it? They recently did like an Angry Cat Christmas. I mean, give me a freaking break. If you're gonna sit down and watch a Christmas special every year outside of a film in general, Mickey's Christmas Carol, I say right beside Charlie Brown Christmas is those two are shining moments of perfect Christmas animated entertainment. If you're gonna introduce the story to a kid, you could not find a better way to do so.
Yes, Virginia, it is a required viewing. No, you get to call it the Phantom Christmas and actually reference that damn sorry Star Wars movie. I could do my Virginia drop. Damn you.
Let me tell you, I just basically took one of the most reviled movies of all time and was able to spin it into something slightly positive. That in itself is a Christmas miracle, Kyle.
It worked. It worked. I thought it worked.
And on that note, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Mickey's Christmas Carol is required viewing? Do you think it's possibly the best Christmas Carol movie? If not, what are your other favorite Christmas Carol movies? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications and whatnot. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at Default Hilarity, on Facebook, Hilarity by Default, and of course, HilarityByDefault.com for weekly movie reviews and other fun stuff. TJ, where can we find you?
Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, it's all the same. At Tokeo J, TOKEOJ. Always a pleasure.
And I'll do it once for TJ because he hasn't done it yet. Holla at your boy.
Holla at your boy.
Listen, hey, I'm glad to come aboard here as per usual, as the other half of the Default Assault team here. And TJ, man, every damn time, it's not just your sexy dulcet tones, but it's always great to have you in the place. Of course, check my man out on Talking Shiz on Block Talk Radio. It's a good time all the way around. Know your role. And yeah, listen, I'm glad to say that I'm forced in the position to make a joke that, in fact, Goofy wore Jar Jar Binks better than Jar Jar Binks. I'm just saying. So, of course, I am Kyle Nash, the student of the game. You can find me on Twitter at the SOTG, and then on Facebook as the student of the game. And check out my musings here. By the time this airs, I will have just covered the American Athletic Conference Championship game.
Nasty.
I know, right? And that's cool. Look out for me should UCF win that game to either be in a Peach Bowl on the New Year's Six or a lesser bowl therein. You'll see me come up, and when I do, all that stuff's going to be on NGSUsports.com. And also, hey, Facebook as the student of the game. Boom.
Sweet. And yeah, make sure to stay tuned for more holiday-inspired Default Assault episodes coming right up. And just remember that life is hilarious by default.